The first $100,000 feels impossibly slow, almost like nothing is happening at all. You're putting money away, you're being careful, you're doing everything right. And yet, the number barely moves. Months pass, sometimes years. Then, something changes. Not because you worked harder, not because you finally figured something out, because the math changed. Most people who try to build wealth describe the same feeling in the early years, like running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not going anywhere. Income comes in, expenses take most of it. What's left goes into savings or investments. And then you check the balance, and it barely looks different. You expected progress, what you got was patience. This phase, the long, quiet accumulation before anything feels real, is where most people start to question whether any of it is working. And here's the thing, it's not a discipline problem, it's not a mindset problem, it's a scale problem. At small numbers, even good decisions look like they don't work. Think about what a 10% return actually means at different stages. You invest $5,000. The market has a solid year. You earn 10%, that's $500. Not life-changing, not even particularly noticeable. In fact, a single unexpected expense probably cost you more than that this year. This is the brutal arithmetic of early wealth building. Your returns are mathematically limited by how much capital you have. At this stage, your income is almost everything. How much you earn, how much you can save, those variables matter far more than your investment strategy. But income has limits, time has limits, and the gap between what you're putting in and what you're getting back feels enormous. That gap is real, and it doesn't close quickly. There's a particular kind of frustration that builds during this phase. You start noticing other people moving faster than you. Someone bought a house, someone got a raise, someone is talking about their portfolio like it's a real thing, and you're still watching a number that seems barely alive. The comparisons don't help, but more than that, the internal narrative starts to shift. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe this doesn't work for people like me. Maybe the effort just isn't worth it. And that's where most people stop. Not because building wealth is impossible, but because in the early years it feels pointless. The feedback loop is broken. You're putting effort in, and the results aren't coming back in any form you can feel. That's a hard thing to sustain. Now take that exact same 10% return. Apply it to $100,000. That's $10,000. For the first time, the number feels alive. In a year, without doing anything differently. Same percentage, completely different feeling. $10,000 is real money. It's a month's salary for a lot of people. It's a car payment, a trip, a buffer, a foundation. It's the first time the money starts to feel like it's working with you rather than you working for it. This is the shift. This is what changes after the first 100,000. Compounding has always been there, but now you can actually see it, feel it, measure it in a way that registers. People often say that wealth building gets easier after a certain point. That's true, but it's worth being precise about why. It's not easier because you've mastered something. It's not easier because your habits changed. It's easier because the math is working for you now in a way it simply couldn't before. The same 10% that once returned $500 now returns $10,000. That gap between effort and result starts to close, and momentum builds. Not the motivational kind, the mathematical kind. It doesn't depend on how you feel anymore. Each year, the base is larger. Each year, the returns are bigger. Progress becomes visible in a way it never was before. The feedback loop, the one that was broken for so long, finally starts working. There's another reason the early phase feels so slow. It's not just that the numbers are small, it's that nothing compounds yet. When your base is low, your returns don't meaningfully add back into the system. They don't accelerate anything. They just exist. You earn $500. It sits there. It doesn't change how the next year feels. But once the number is large enough, something subtle shifts. The returns start feeding the system. They become part of the next cycle. And that's when growth stops being linear. There's also a timing problem that most people underestimate. The effort comes first, the reward comes much later, and there's a long stretch in between where the connection between them is almost invisible. You're saving consistently, you're investing regularly, but the results don't show up in a way that feels proportional. That delay between cause and effect is what makes this phase psychologically difficult, because humans are not wired to stay consistent when the feedback is delayed. We expect some kind of signal that what we're doing is working. In the early stages of wealth building, that signal is almost non-existent. This is why the first 100,000 isn't just a financial milestone, it's a filter. It separates the people who can tolerate slow progress from the people who can't, not because one group is more disciplined, but because one group is willing to continue without immediate reinforcement. And once you cross that threshold, the experience changes in a way that's hard to explain until you see it. The same habits feel lighter, the same decisions feel more meaningful, not because they changed, but because now they produce visible results. You're no longer just putting money away, you're watching it grow. At that point, something else happens. You stop thinking only about how much you can save, and you start paying attention to how much your money is doing on its own. That shift in focus is subtle, but it changes how you think about time, risk, and opportunity, because now the system is contributing. None of this means it becomes easy. Past 100K, the discipline still matters. The decisions still matter. You can still make mistakes that set you back years. The difference isn't that it gets easy, it's that the road finally starts going somewhere you can see. Less friction, more momentum. The early years require a particular kind of tolerance for slow progress, for invisible results, and for staying consistent without much to show for it. That's the cost of entry. Not money, time, patience, and the willingness to keep going when the numbers don't seem to care. The hardest part of building wealth isn't growing it, it's starting it. That first long stretch where effort seems to outpace results by a wide margin is where the real work happens. Not because it's building character, but because it's building capital. And capital, once it reaches a certain scale, starts doing something it couldn't before. It starts growing on its own. The first 100,000 doesn't just build your money, it builds something far more important than returns: momentum.